everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040, bringing to you another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. And June 27th, 2004 marks 20 years ago that history was made at the Great American Bash when JBL defeated Eddie Guerrero in a Texas bull rope match to become the WWE Champion and go on to hold that title for almost 10 months, making him the longest reigning champion in SmackDown history. And for today's edition, I am going to be discussing the success and failures of JBL's WWE Championship reign from June 2004 to April 2005. Now, ever since Bradshaw debuted in the company back in 1995, Bradshaw, although a very tough big man in his own right, you kind of got the sense with Bradshaw that the company just really didn't know what to do with him. He would go from gimmick to gimmick, tag team to tag team, and he just seemed almost like an afterthought, as he would go from being Justin Hawk Bradshaw to Blackjack Bradshaw to simply plain old Bradshaw. And as I said, an incredibly tough, agile big man, but Bradshaw was just another big guy. There was nothing really special about him. He was just more of a brawler. He was not really a guy you would look at and say, you know what, I could see this guy being world champion one day. The most I would probably have said about Bradshaw at the time was I could see Bradshaw getting a title shot, but I could never see him as world champion. Maybe intercontinental champion or a hardcore champion, but the most I would see is Bradshaw holding the tag team titles, which he did on a number of occasions. And after being paired up with Ron Simmons, aka Farouk, and declaring themselves as the Acolytes before joining the Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness and then later on becoming the APA. Bradshaw was one of the most popular guys as one half of the APA tag team. But again, you never really looked at him as world championship material. So after the APA disbanded after WrestleMania 20, Farouk was fired by Paul Heyman, but in real life, Ron Simmons just pretty much retired. And that pretty much left Bradshaw on his own. Where does Bradshaw go next? Ron Simmons ain't around anymore. So fast forward the following week, Bradshaw would debut in a brand new gimmick and calling himself JBL, playing on his name, John Bradshaw Layfield. And he would go straight into a feud with Eddie Guerrero over the WWE title. Now, this was at a time where SmackDown didn't really have a lot of star power. Undertaker was still healing up an elbow injury. Big Show was injured. Kurt Angle was pretty much taking a break due to injuries. And there wasn't really any strong contenders to challenge Eddie Guerrero for the WWE title. I mean, you had Booker T. I don't see why Booker T couldn't challenge Eddie Guerrero for the title, especially as he just turned heel. Or even Rob Van Dam could have challenged Eddie Guerrero for the title. But they decided to go with JBL. And after a jaw dropping bloodbath at Judgment Day 2004, JBL got the win, but by disqualification. And the stage was set for a brutal Texas bull rope match at the Great American Bash, which JBL would win the WWE title thanks to a little assist from Kurt Angle after overturning the decision. So now JBL was the WWE champion. This was a very strange time. Bradshaw, world champion, carrying the company, carrying SmackDown. It was very, very strange. And I thought to myself, even my best friend at the time, bless his soul, we both looked at each other and said, yeah, he won't keep the title for long. Eddie will probably win it back, or maybe someone else might beat him for it. There's no way WWE can possibly see JBL hold the title for that long because he's not really a guy like, a Taker or an Angle, someone, who's a big star who could carry the WWE on his shoulders. But I'll give JBL his due. He did carry the title very well, and he was a great heel champion, kind of like a throwback to those old school cowardly heels where people would pay to see them get beat, but somehow the heel champion would come out on top, much to the dismay and annoyance of the fans. But for JBL to hold the title for as long as he did, nearly 10 months, I mean, that's a long time. And he had some really good feuds. He had a great feud with Eddie Guerrero, much better than I expected. He went on to have a surprisingly very good feud with The Undertaker. Now, obviously, they drilled a lot of history of their Ministry of Darkness days, Gangrel and Viscera coming out and attacking Undertaker. And of course, we know that the two had two pay per view matches at SummerSlam 2004 and No Mercy 2004 in a last ride match. The last ride match was actually really good. I thought that was a really good match. And it was one of those situations I thought, okay, Taker didn't win at SummerSlam. He's definitely going to get the win here. But he didn't. JBL beat him. Well, cheated, shall we say. But he still beat him anyway. Then he would go on to feud with Booker T and he would defeat him at Survivor Series 2004. And then he would face every opponent that he ever defeated. That was Undertaker, Booker T, and Eddie Guerrero in a fatal four-way match at Armageddon 2004. And I thought to myself, yeah, JBL's definitely going to lose the title here. But somehow he retained again. And I will say this, you know, for a guy that you wouldn't have given the time of day or even look at him as a champion, I thought JBL was very entertaining. The way he would carry himself, saying that he was a wrestling god and no one could touch him. He was pretty much untouchable. And, obviously that would rub up Raw World Champion Triple H, which we did get to see a couple of hilarious segments backstage with those two. But it's just interesting that WWE actually invested the time in JBL as a champion and to keep the title for that long. And he was really funny as well. He did do some funny promos and some great segments. But again, if you had asked me back in 99 or 98, Bradshaw as world champion, my answer would have been, as I said at the beginning, no. I could see him getting a title shot perhaps, but I don't see him winning it. That's about as far or as close to the title I think Bradshaw would get to. But he held the title really well. He helped carry SmackDown at a time when we needed more guys to carry the show, and he did it really well. So fast forward to 2005, JBL is still champion. He had a great little mini feud with Kurt Angle. They had a match on SmackDown, which I really wished Angle beat him, but he didn't. And then they had a triple threat match at the Royal Rumble 2005. Angle, Big Show, JBL, WWE title on the line, and JBL won. My God. And then at No Way Out 2005, JBL would defeat Big Show in a barbed wire steel cage match. And you just think to yourself, is JBL ever going to lose this title? I mean, he's pretty much beaten all of the top guys. And then John Cena would come along and pretty much defeat JBL at WrestleMania 21 to become the new WWE champion. And I suppose in a way, he kind of gave Cena a big rub and passed the torch to him. You know, the underdog defeating the system, Wall Street, the streets versus Wall Street, depending on which way you look at it. And JBL had some great matches. My only issue with this was I felt the title reign went on a bit too long. Maybe could have kept it for a couple of more months, maybe 2 months or 3 months the most. Maybe they could have switched up a bit. Maybe give it to Booker T or Angle, perhaps. Just someone. Personally, I would have preferred if Taker won it, especially as he just came back as the Dead Man. Would have been a great way to cap off his return to the dark side by winning the title. But apparently, Taker didn't want to. He wanted to put his friend over, and that's very admirable of him. But just don't think Bradshaw was, in my opinion, good enough to be champion. But he made it work. I'll give him his due. He really, really made it work. And he would go on to have a rematch against John Cena at Judgment Day 2005 in a bloody I Quit match. And that was pretty much it. JBL would still get title matches, but he'll never win the title again. So to be a one-time world champion and hold it for about nearly 10 months, I suppose that is very impressive. I mean, sometimes you don't always need to hold loads of titles. You could just hold it once and it means something. And he did make the WWE title mean something. And for someone to come along like John Cena and actually dethrone the longest reigning champion, I suppose that does count as a bit of a big deal, I guess. But as I said, JBL would not have been my first choice to put the title on. I would have probably have gone with someone else. But it just goes to show you that don't always judge a book by its cover. Sometimes giving guys the opportunity and running with it, it can work if it's done right. And JBL was booked very well as champion. Very cowardly. It helped get a lot of heat for him, and it also helped really get him over as a heel. It did its job. Let's just say that it did its job really, really well. So, in terms of the success and failures of JBL's WWE Championship reign, the failure I would say is he held it for too long. Maybe he should have dropped it a bit earlier. But the success, I would say, outweighs the failure. He held the title, he carried it very well, he carried SmackDown, and he had some great matches. He was very entertaining. He had some hilarious promos and segments. But yeah, I would say overall, I would say it was a complete success. I know some people would say, no, it was a failure. They should never have put the title on Bradshaw. Yeah, you're probably right. They shouldn't have done, but they did, and it worked. And I'm kind of glad that they did it one time and they didn't put the title on him again because I think it would have been stupid. I don't think the fans would have warmed to it the second time round. It worked once, and I'm glad they only did it one time. And I'm glad that WWE took a chance and it paid off. So I would definitely say the title reign was a complete success. I wouldn't say it set the world on fire, but it did its job. It did it very well. My favourite feud, I would say overall, was probably his program with The Undertaker. I thought that was really good. And his program with Eddie Guerrero, I thought that was really, really good as well. The rest of the feuds were okay, but I think his feuds against Taker and Eddie were probably the best ones. If I had to choose, I would probably go more with the Taker feud. I thought that was a really good feud. Surprisingly, a lot better than I expected it to be. And yeah, it was one of those times where you really hoped JBL would lose, but he didn't. But they told a good story. Went on for quite a while. Went on for a couple of good months. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on JBL's WWE title run from 2004 to 2005? Did you enjoy it? Do you think it was a success? Do you think it was a failure? Do you think maybe JBL shouldn't have held the title as long as he did? Do you think he should have dropped it a bit earlier, perhaps? What was your favourite feud during this title reign? Was it against Eddie Guerrero? Was it against The Undertaker, Big Show, Angle, Booker T, or John Cena, or against all three of the opponents he defeated back in 2004? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.